The desert wind carried dust across the firing range, whispering like ghosts through the silence. Rows of soldiers stood at attention, rifles slung, eyes fixed on the far-off targets shimmered by the heat. In the middle of them, a fresh recruit adjusted the sling of his weapon nervously. He was young, just 19, with hands that still trembled when he gripped the rifle. From the raised platform, General Harlow watched with a gaze as sharp as a hawk. His reputation stretched across the military, ruthless in discipline, unshakable in war. To him, rookies were fragile clay, untested and unworthy until molded by fire. He leaned on his cane, scars lining his face, his voice carrying across the range like thunder. "Listen well," he barked, gesturing to the target stretched across the barren land. "Hitting the standard distance, that's duty. Hitting beyond 600, that's skill. But hitting the extreme, out there, past where the sand swallows steel." He jabbed his finger toward the furthest, nearly invisible steel plate glinting on the horizon. "Only legends hit that far." The soldiers murmured among themselves, a mixture of awe and doubt. No one had struck that plate in years. Rumor said even the best marksmen missed it more often than not. Among them stood Private Cole Andrews, the rookie. His heart hammered in his chest, not just from the general's words but from the weight of his own past. Cole had grown up on the edge of nowhere, a small town where his father worked the mines and his mother juggled 3 jobs. When his father died in an accident, Cole had buried his grief in one thing: the rifle his dad left behind. He would spend endless nights on the outskirts of town, practicing with a battered scope, learning wind, distance, patience, alone, unseen, unrecognized. Now, here he stood, surrounded by seasoned soldiers, under the eye of a man who believed rookies were nothing. The challenge began. One by one, soldiers took their shots. Rifles cracked, echoing across the desert. Dust clouds kicked up near targets, some plates ringing, others silent. The general watched impassively, hands behind his back, giving only the slightest nod when someone met the standard range. Then came the turn for the rookie. Cole stepped forward, each boot sinking into the sand as though the earth itself resisted him. He could feel the eyes on his back, the whispers, "The kid won't even hit 500. His palms were slick with sweat, his throat dry. He knelt, steadying his rifle. Through the scope, the world narrowed. Heat waves rising, wind tugging at the mirage of distance, the steel plate so far it looked no bigger than a coin. His heart pounded so loudly it nearly drowned out his breathing. "Take your shot, rookie," the general said, his tone laced with dismissal. "And pray you don't embarrass yourself." Cole remembered his father's words, spoken softly years ago as they sat beneath a sky full of stars. "The world will tell you what you can't do, son. Let your shot be your answer." He exhaled slowly. The world around him faded. It was just him, the wind, and the target. The rifle cracked. Time seemed to hold its breath. The bullet cut across the burning air, disappearing into the horizon. A second later, a faint, impossible sound reached them: clang. The steel plate at the extreme range rang true. The soldiers gasped. A few shouted. One even dropped his binoculars. But it was the general who froze. His jaw tightened, his eyes narrowed, disbelief etched into his scarred face. He leaned forward, scanning the range himself. The rookie had done the impossible, the kind of shot that became legend, the kind that haunted stories told in barracks for decades. Cole didn't smile. He didn't raise his fist or bask in glory. He simply lowered his rifle and stood, silent, as though waiting for the earth to confirm what had just happened. For a long moment, the general said nothing. Then, slowly, he stepped forward, his cane digging into the sand. He studied the rookie with a stare that could crush stone. "Name," he demanded. "Private Cole Andrews, sir," the rookie said, voice steady. The general's lips pressed into a line. He turned his gaze back to the range, then back to Cole. For the first time in years, the unshakable general allowed himself to admit something rare. "You just set the range record," he said, his tone quieter than before. "I said only legends hit that far." His voice faltered, just for a second. "Maybe I was wrong. Maybe legends aren't born from years in command, but from one shot that defies belief." The soldiers erupted in cheers, some clapping Cole on the back, others shaking their heads in awe. But Cole barely heard them. He was staring at the horizon, where the plates still shimmered, thinking of his father, of the nights under the stars, of the promise he had made to himself when no one was watching. That day, a rookie taught even a hardened general that greatness doesn't wait for permission. It rises, quietly, when the world least expects it. And in the annals of the base, the record stood, not just as numbers on paper, but as a story whispered from soldier to soldier, the day a rookie became a legend. The sun had barely risen the next morning when the barracks buzzed with whispers. Every soldier was talking about one thing: the rookie, Cole Andrews, who had done the impossible. Some were in awe, others in disbelief, and a few carried resentment in their tone. In the rigid world of the military, respect was earned over years of sweat, blood, and scars. And yet here was a 19-year-old who had shattered the record in a single shot. Cole, however, felt none of the glory. He sat quietly at the edge of his bunk, cleaning his rifle. His hands moved with precision, but his thoughts drifted elsewhere. The steel plate he had struck felt less like a triumph and more like the opening of a door to something bigger, something heavier. That door opened faster than he expected. The general summoned him. Inside the command tent, General Harlow stood by a map spread across a wide wooden table. His cane rested against the edge, and his piercing eyes locked on Cole the moment he entered. "Private Andrews," the general said, his voice steady but unreadable. "Yesterday, you did something I've only seen a handful of men accomplish in my lifetime. But a shot on the range is one thing. A shot in the chaos of war is another." Cole swallowed hard. "Yes, sir." The general's gaze softened for just a moment. "Tell me, where did you learn to shoot like that?" Cole hesitated, then answered quietly, "My father, sir. He worked the mines back home. Nights were hard. Shooting was the one thing that cleared his head. He taught me everything. When he passed, I kept practicing. It was all I had left of him." For a long moment, the tent was silent. The general's expression shifted, a shadow of memory crossing his face. Few men ever saw it, but behind his hardened exterior was someone who had lost more than most. He gave a small nod, almost imperceptible. "Your skill is remarkable," Harlow said finally, "but skill attracts attention. There are men in this unit who see you as a threat, not an inspiration. You'll need to prove yourself in more than just a shot." Those words proved true sooner than Cole expected. 2 weeks later, the unit deployed for a high-stakes training exercise deep in the desert. Simulated combat, long treks under scorching heat, survival with limited supplies. It was designed to break the weak and test the strong. From the very start, Cole felt the weight of the other soldiers' eyes. During the march, whispers followed him. During camp, some men excluded him from their circle. One in particular, Sergeant McKay, a seasoned sniper with a reputation of his own, watched Cole with thinly veiled contempt. "You think one lucky shot makes you a legend," McKay sneered one night, tossing a twig into the fire. "Out here, rookies get people killed. Let's see if you're still a hero when the desert chews you up." Cole didn't respond. His father's advice echoed in his mind: "Let your actions speak louder than words." The days grew harsher. Sandstorms rolled in, blinding and suffocating. Supplies ran low. Men stumbled under the weight of packs. Yet Cole endured, quiet and steady. Where others cursed the heat, he scanned the horizon. Where others faltered, he carried more than his share without complaint. It wasn't until the final night of the exercise that the real test came. The unit was tasked with a long-range engagement drill. 2-man teams, working through the dark, had to hit distant targets across rocky terrain while under simulated enemy fire. It was meant to mimic real battlefield chaos. Cole was paired with none other than McKay. The tension was immediate. McKay barely spoke as they crawled into position. Through the scope, targets glowed faintly against the night horizon. The wind howled through the rocks, tricky and unpredictable. McKay muttered, "Rookie can't handle this." He took his shot, missed, swore under his breath. Cole, calm as the desert stars, adjusted for wind and distance. He remembered those countless nights back home, shooting under moonlight, listening to the earth itself for guidance. He squeezed the trigger. Clang. The target rang. Another. Clang. And another. Clang. One after the other, his shots landed true. By the time the drill ended, Cole had hit more targets than any other team. When the dust settled, McKay looked at him differently. There was no sneer now, No contempt, only the grudging respect of a soldier who had seen skill proven under pressure. Back at camp, the general addressed the unit. His eyes scanned the group before settling on Cole. "You've all seen what Private Andrews can do. But what matters most isn't the record or the perfect shot. It's the heart behind it, the refusal to break when the world pushes against you. That's what makes a legend." For the first time, Cole allowed himself a small smile. Not because of recognition, but because he knew his father would have been proud. And though he was still just a rookie in the eyes of the military, that night, around the fire, even the hardened veterans sat a little closer to him. The whispers had changed. They no longer doubted. They told the story of the shot that broke records. The story of the rookie who proved himself in the desert. The story of how legends aren't born in rank or reputation. They're made in the moments when no one believes you can, and you do. The record-breaking shot should have been the end of it. For most soldiers, it would have been a moment to savor, a story to carry into old age. But for Private Cole Andrews, that single bullet was only the beginning. The following days at the base carried an odd tension. Everywhere Cole walked, he felt eyes on him. Some of the soldiers gave him nods of respect, quiet acknowledgement that he had done what no one thought possible. Others glared with narrowed eyes, their pride wounded by the rookie's triumph. In the rigid hierarchy of the military, glory was supposed to come after years of sweat, scars, and sacrifice, not on a rookie's first trial. But Cole hadn't fired that shot for glory. He hadn't even fired it for himself. In the stillness of that desert range, he had felt his father's presence, the miner who had taught him how to breathe steady, how to listen to the wind, how to trust patience. Hitting that plate wasn't about being a legend. It was about keeping a promise he'd once whispered into the stars. General Harlow, however, saw something different. One evening, as the last light faded over the desert, Cole was summoned to the general's quarters. The room was lined with relics of old campaigns, medals, worn maps, photographs of young men who had long since turned to ghosts. The general stood at the window, his cane leaning against the wall, his broad shoulders hunched slightly as though weighed down by more than years. "You know what happens when someone does what you did, Andrews?" the general asked without turning. Cole straightened. "No, sir." The general finally faced him. His eyes, sharp and gray, seemed to look straight through him. They stopped being invisible. Command notices, enemies notice, and men you thought were brothers, some of them notice too. Cole held his gaze, unsure whether it was a warning or a compliment. "I only did what I was trained to do, sir." "No," the general said firmly. "You did what can't be trained. And that means the road ahead won't be easy." The general wasn't wrong. A week later, the unit embarked on a grueling survival and combat exercise in the high desert canyons. It was supposed to be a test of endurance, teamwork, and skill under simulated battlefield conditions. The soldiers marched for miles under a punishing sun, packs heavy, rations scarce. At night, they set up small camps beneath jagged cliffs, their rifles never far from reach. From the beginning, Cole felt the isolation. In drills, some of the older soldiers, accidentally, bumped him, muttering under their breath. In the ranks, a few ignored his presence altogether. But the harshest was Sergeant McKay, a battle-hardened sniper who had once been regarded as the best shot in the unit. Cole's record-breaking bullet had cast a long shadow over McKay's pride, and he wasn't about to let the rookie forget it. During one drill, McKay leaned close, his words sharp. "Out here, Andrews, it's not about one shot. It's about surviving long enough to take it. Don't think for a second you're ready for that." Cole didn't answer. His father's voice echoed in his mind. "Let your silence carry the weight of your aim." The desert was merciless. Sandstorms tore through the canyon, stinging skin and choking lungs. Water ran low. Some men faltered, stumbling under the weight of exhaustion. Cole, quiet and steady, carried more than his share without complaint. And slowly, some of those who doubted him began to notice. The real test came on the fourth night. The exercise called for a live fire simulation against distant, moving targets. Teams were paired, tasked with hitting steel plates hidden in the rocks while under simulated stress fire. It was meant to replicate the chaos of war, wind, noise, confusion, pressure. By a twist of fate, or maybe design, Cole was paired with McKay. The moment they lay prone on the cliffside, McKay sneered. You think you're special because of one shot. Let's see if you can do it with the wind screaming and the world falling apart. McKay took the first shot. His bullet whined past the target, hitting stone. He swore, adjusted, and missed again. Cole, calm as a stone, lifted his rifle. Through the scope, the world narrowed into alignment. Wind tugging at the barrel, the faint glow of a steel plate half buried in shadow. He breathed, adjusted for drift, squeezed the trigger. Clang. The plate rang true. Another target appeared farther left. Cole adjusted again. Clang. A third popped up, swaying in the canyon gusts. Clang. By the end of the drill, Cole had landed more hits than anyone in the unit. Even the instructors overseeing the exercise exchanged quiet looks of disbelief. McKay said nothing. For the first time, his silence carried not contempt but something else, respect, reluctant but real. Back at camp, General Harlow gathered the men. His gaze swept over the weary soldiers, resting finally on Cole. You've all seen it for yourselves, the general said. Skill isn't about luck. It isn't about age or rank. It's about consistency under fire. Private Andrews has proven that. But remember this, being a legend isn't about the shot itself. It's about carrying the weight of expectation, of envy, of doubt, and still hitting true. Cole felt the eyes of the unit on him, but this time, they weren't filled with disdain. They were filled with something else, belief. That night, around the fire, the whispers changed. They no longer asked if the rookie's shot was luck. They told the story, the impossible range, the desert drill, the silence of McKay. The story of how a rookie was no longer just a rookie. The story of how legends begin, not with glory, but with endurance. And though Cole said little, staring into the flames, he knew one thing with certainty, his journey was only beginning.